So today we are going to be learning about dividing monomials now that we have multiplied them using the product rule, and we have also multiplied them using the power rule. So when we are dividing monomials, we are going to use the quotient rule. So our first step is that we need to divide coefficients. Then we're going to use the quotient rule to simplify our variables. So our quotient rule looks like we have x to some power divided by x to another power. All we're going to do is we are going to subtract our exponents. So if I had something like number 1, where I have x to the 5th divided by x to x cubed. So I'm going to take my exponents. I have a 5 and I have a 3. So I'm just going to subtract them, and my answer would just be x squared. Alright, so if I had something like number 3, so I am dividing m cubed divided by m cubed. So if I use real numbers there, so let's say m equals 3. So let's say I have 3 cubed divided by 3 cubed. So I would end up with 27 divided by 27. So it's just like any other time that we divide a number by itself, we're always going to end up with 1 as our answer. Alright, so if you look at one like number 5, we have 6x to the 4th divided by 2x cubed. So for this one, we are going to use our step 1, which is dividing the coefficients. So we have to do 6 divided by 2, which is 3. Then I have x to the 4th divided by x cubed. So when I do that, I have 4 minus 3, and we know that 4 minus 3 equals 1, so I would be left with 1x there. Alright, and then we can look at some of the more difficult ones, like number 10. So I have 36x to the 9th, y to the 5th, divided by 54x cubed, y squared. So I'm going to divide my coefficients. So I have 36 over 54. If I simplify that, I will end up with 2/3. So now I have x to the 9th divided by x cubed. So I'm going to do 9 minus 3 equals 6. So I'll be left with an x to the 6th. Then I have y to the 5th power divided by y squared. So I've got 5 minus 2, which is going to equal 3. So then I would just be left with y to the 3rd power. So what if I had something like number 11, where I'm going to need to use more than one rule? So on number 11, I have 3x to the 5th power, and all of that's going to be squared. Then I have 20, and that's all divided by 27x cubed. So first thing I need to do, I need to use my power rule up top. Alright, so my power rule says that I need to multiply everything by this exponent that's on the outside. So if I have 3 squared, I'm going to have 9. I have x to the 5th squared, so I'm going to multiply 5 and 2. I end up with x to the 10th power. Then I'm just going to bring down whatever I had on the bottom. So now I just need to simplify that. So 9 over 27. So that would simplify to 1 over 3. Then I have x, I wrote 10, so I have x cubed. So then I have x to the 10th divided by x cubed, so I've got to do 10 minus 3, which equals 7. So my new exponent would be 7. So I end up with 1/3 x to the 7th. So our negative exponent notes So, our negative exponent rule. So, you should be familiar with negative exponents. So, I believe you learned that in pre-algebra. So, if you have, say you had something like x to the negative 9th power. So, whenever we have a negative exponent, we have to move that to the bottom. So, we don't have anything on the bottom now, so we've got to make one. So, we end up with 1 over x to the 9th power. It's just like if we did, say we did 2 to the negative 2 power. So, we know that we would take that, we'd put 1 on top, and we would have a 4 on the bottom. So, when we are moving our exponents, we are only going to move variables to the bottom. So, move variables down only. So, if we have a number, that number is going to stay on the top. So, number 1, we have x to the negative 5th power, so that's just like our exponent rule that we have. So that would just be 1 over x to the 5th power. So on number 2, we have a coefficient there, so we have to look at our rule here. So we're only moving variables. So when I only move the variable, that means I'm going to leave 3 at the top. It doesn't need to go anywhere. And then I'm just going to have m squared on the bottom. So if I had something like number 5. So on number 5, I have 3x cubed, and that's all going to be to the negative 2 power. So I have to multiply everything in here by negative 2. So we can start by just by distributing our exponent. So 3 to the negative 2 power, that's going to give me 1/9. Then I have x, 3 times negative 2, x to the negative 6th power. So now I need to move my x down to the bottom. So when I simplify this, I end up with 1 over 9x to the 6th. Alright, and so go back up to number 3. So on number 3, so I have negative 7, a to the negative 4th power, b cubed. So b cubed, that's already a positive exponent, so I don't need to move that one. And I also don't need to move my coefficient. So the only thing that I'm going to move is my a to the negative 4th power. So I'm going to keep negative 7 at the top. I'm going to keep b cubed at the top. All I'm moving is a to the 4th power. Alright, so work on this practice and we will go over it.